Hello, my name is Peter Hayton. I'm the Clinical Director at the Banyans. And today we're having a chat about the link between codependent relationships and substance dependency, and having a look at some of those issues and seeing where these two kind of concerns interact. A person can be dependent on many things. We can be dependent on all kinds of substances, even medications, behaviours, but also on people. And this is where a codependent relationship becomes an issue of concern. Of course, I can have a cup of coffee in the morning and it's just one cup of coffee and it's not much of an issue for me. But if I'm having 12 cups of coffee, that can become quite harmful throughout the day, and my GP would probably get upset. So too is it for relationships, where we can have really healthy relationships that help us and support us and are nurturing, but then we can have codependent relationships where we become too enmeshed in the other person, and the interaction between those two people becomes quite unhealthy for us. So as a person can become dependent on another, and as we can't become dependent on a substance, we want to have a look at some of the issues and concerns around these two things. And just as a substance can cause us harm, so too a relationship can cause us harm, and we need to get out of that or away from that harm to improve our lives and become better people in ourselves. That involves setting up of things like boundaries. When we look at a substance concern, one of the things we want to do is put a boundary or something between us and the issue of concern. Of course, what many people do is they'll go away for treatment into a facility where they're separated from the substance and they don't have access to it. And that's a great start in terms of a boundary for them. When we're looking at a relationship, that can be a little bit more difficult for us. And so what we want to do is look at ways of being able to put those boundaries in place so that we're more separated from that person that might be causing us harm in the codependent relationship. So those boundaries that we put in place, we can see some similarities there between our substance concerns and what would be a codependent relationship issue. When we're thinking about links between substance concerns and codependent relationships, one of the things I think about as a psychologist is childhood trauma. We know that from lots of research with our patients that when we've experience some childhood trauma that's quite significant and serious for us, that can lead us into our adult lives of not having the skills or tripping over the kind of things that can cause issues for us. And one of those things we know is the strong link between childhood trauma, significant childhood trauma, and substance issues. So too, there's that link between significant childhood trauma and codependent relationships. And sometimes those kind of concerns can influence us as we grow into adults and trying to separate ourselves from that or work through those issues, an important part of our recovery, whether we're looking at a kind of codependent relationship or whether we're looking at childhood trauma and those kind of substance concerns that can come up. So, we're seeing a similarity there between those kind of concepts. One of the things that we know as humans is that as we grow through our childhood years, we develop healthy attachments. And those kind of healthy attachments are really great for us. They help us to become secure in ourselves, secure in the presence of others that we know we can trust, and do wonderful things for the development of our personality, our behaviours. And, there's really strong protective factors there that we notice and we see. And we can see a similarity there where we've not got those kind of secure attachments that can kind of lead us to the point where we become caught up in a codependent relationship and then pass that kind of stuff on to others around us. Sometimes even our kids, the way that I've been brought up or the way that I've been influenced by my parents can influence the way that I parent myself, and that can we can see that generational kind of continuation of issues. We know that for substance concerns, around 50% of the people that would have a serious substance issue probably getting that from kind of like a family member. We're seeing those kind of genetic kind of components, but also about how we've been nurtured, if we were nurtured by a parent with those kind of issues. And so too with substance and codependency issues, we kind of see that flow-on effect throughout the generation, something to be mindful of when we're thinking about this area. One of the things that we know when we're thinking and looking into recovery for people in codependent relationships and recovery for people suffering from dependency and substance concerns is that, that we can get tripped over by things. Working in the recovery industry around substance issues for many years, working as a psychologist with people with relationship concerns for decades. One of the things that I've noted as a psychologist is that the framework around us or the support mechanisms around us can help or hinder our recovery. I know that sometimes when there's somebody in a recovery from a substance issue, that those, if they're in a codependent relationship or there's something going on there, that can become a problem. In fact, sometimes in those codependent relationships, they enable the substance concern. So too, a substance issue can enable or keep a codependent relationship entrenched and enmeshed. And we've got to watch out for those kind of things and really kind of look at separating them out and working through those kind of concerns to be able to get to a place of freedom, of health, and of improved recovery. It can take quite some time, and often we need numbers of treatment programs and treatment professionals around us to really help us move through these issues of concern. One of the things that we know when we're considering somebody for recovery, whether they're coming with a substance concern or whether it's a codependent relationship or an interpersonal issue that's going on for them, one of the aspects that we really want to focus on in the therapeutic domain is trying to look at the whole picture. Helping somebody look at the multiple things that are going on rather than just kind of isolating ourselves and isolating the issues. And we've got to kind of be careful with that. We've got to be considerate of different factors and different things. It helps us move to a recovery when we're looking at not just the substance issue or not just the codependent concern by itself, but we're looking how these things interact together. Helps us to find a better pathway, a stronger pathway to recovery. I'm Peter Hayton, Clinical Director at the Banyans. Thank you for taking time to listen to us about codependent relationships and substance concerns.